Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Cody the Coin Raptor, and in today's video, I'm going to talk about why I'm still very bullish on Bitcoin in the short term. And I'm also going to cover the $15 billion in Bitcoin options that are set to expire on Friday. Additionally, I'm going to also talk about the increased adoption of Bitcoin and why that's so incredibly important. Now, Bitcoin has been kind of moving sideways. We did get a little bit of a bounce over the past couple of days. As I said in my last video, wouldn't be surprised if we hit kind of a dead cat bounce here. And so Bitcoin has moved all the way up here to resistance at about 112. This is kind of an area that I would expect Bitcoin to go sideways for maybe a little bit longer before we start to actually see some increased volatility by the end of the week. Now, it's still set to a sell on the super trend. Super trend indicator is still set to sell. Now, as a reminder, it can flip to a buy if Bitcoin goes above this 119 level. It can actually switch over to a buy, and that would actually be very bullish for Bitcoin. But until that happens, we're still stuck at a sell, which more often than not means we're going to see more sideways or downside in the near term, say next couple of days. The fear and greed index is still sitting at about 37. It's not as bad as it was last week, which was probably about around extreme fear 23. Now it's moved up to a 37, but that's still not very bullish for Bitcoin. Normally, you want to see it kind of on the other side of that, close to greed or maybe even extreme greed. That would give us some momentum heading into the next couple of weeks. Now, with Bitcoin, it's important to point out the fact that these options are set to expire on the 31st of October on Halloween. You have almost 14 and a half, a little more than $14.5 billion worth of Bitcoin options set to expire. And this is one of the largest options expiries that we've seen for the past couple of months. Put to call ratio still very bearish at 0.74. Okay. Now, taking a look at our max pain price sitting at about 114, this is still decently above where we are right now at about 111. So I actually think that 114 area is definitely in play by the end of the week. And I think that Bitcoin potentially is setting up for a nice rally by the end of the week. And the reason for that is because you have all these options that are set to expire. You have this volatility, okay? And volatility for Bitcoin can be a boon or it could be a negative. And I think that in this case, I wouldn't be surprised if it actually pushed the Bitcoin price up much higher, because there's been so much bearishness in the Bitcoin market. And on top of that, we have the seasonality for October. Normally they call it Uptober because October tends to be one of the best performing months. But you can see here that we're sitting at a negative 2% gain for the month of October, and we have 1 week of October left. Now, I would also say that this sets us up actually for a very nice November as well, because November is actually a little bit more bullish than October, at least when it comes to your average gains of 46% and the median of about 10%. But December, on the other hand, is a lot more muted. So if this big gain is going to happen, if we're going to get a Santa Claus Rally by the end of the year, most likely we're going to wind up seeing it by the end of the week, this week for October, and then also in November as well. I think that's actually what we're setting up for. Now you have whales that are going out and buying the dip. They're whale wallet number 7 here. Whale wallet number 7 added 3,200 Bitcoin on the 23rd, a couple days ago. This whale wallet has been adding a significant number of Bitcoin over the last couple of months, and they continue to buy the dip. Now, 3,200 Bitcoin, that's a significant amount. You take a look at the whale wallet number 10, okay, also known as Mr. 100. Mr. 100 continues to stack Bitcoin like crazy, buying significant amounts of Bitcoin almost every day. And these whale wallets are seeing the fact that Bitcoin's price is depressed, but at the same time, it's kind of like a coiled spring in which it's storing up all of this energy, and it will eventually explode to the upside. Now, Bitcoin is also getting some very nice adoption news here. You can see that the JP Morgan is going to accept Bitcoin and Ethereum as a collateral. Now, this is very nice here because you consider the fact that JP Morgan has been one of the most bearish banks when it comes to Bitcoin. Jamie Dimon famously hates Bitcoin, but now they're accepting Bitcoin and Ethereum as collateral for loans. Okay, so this is huge because they are Wall Street's largest bank, and you'll have other banks that are most likely going to follow their lead. Okay, so this is just goes to show you that the shifting momentum around Bitcoin, the shifting attitude towards Bitcoin when it comes to Wall Street is more towards adoption and less towards, hey, it's a pet rock. And I think that this is ultimately very bullish for the long term. You take a look at our so-so value, IBIT, our so-so value inflows for Bitcoin spot ETFs. It actually went up about 100 and the weekly total net flow was about 446 million for this week. So we actually flipped from a huge outflow last week, which was about minus 1.23 billion, to where we are right now, $446 million worth of inflows to these spot ETFs. And it's nice to see. Normally you have a reversal on how Wall Street's essentially going out and buying their Bitcoin. It's nice to see we have returned to inflows as opposed to outflows. I think that's bullish as well. Now, taking a look at the Bitcoin spent output profit ratio to give us an idea on the short term, whether or not the traders are in profit or not, you can actually see that they are in fact in profit. It's sitting above this one line, which means that people who have bought Bitcoin, kind of an average of the market that has bought Bitcoin, they're sitting in profit right now. This is a nice little reversal from what we saw back on the 16th, in which it was actually below that one line and a majority of the market was out of profit. Now, another reason why I think Bitcoin can actually push much higher is we saw the huge spike in the gold prices over the last 6 months. It's up to 25%. And the simple fact is that Bitcoin just has not been as high. Okay, Bitcoin only up 19% of the last 6 months. It's mostly been gold. But if you believe that, like I do, that Bitcoin is digital gold, it's a substitute for that gold, Bitcoin is likely to catch up to gold over the next couple of months. In fact, gold was actually down this week. Go ahead and take a look at this. It was actually down 3.5% over the last 5 days, whereas Bitcoin over the last 5 days was actually up. So now we're starting to see a convergence of Bitcoin and gold, at least over the short term, and I think that this is ultimately long-term bullish. Now, another reason why I think that Bitcoin is setting up for a nice bullish run, a nice little Santa Claus rally, is because the estimated leverage ratio, the amount of leverage in the Bitcoin market, has actually gone down significantly after that big implosion we had earlier in October. And this is the amount of market that's leveraged. And the reason why I think that this is bullish is because when you have less leverage in the market, that means there's less of a blow-up risk in the market when the Bitcoin price does go down. Now, on the other side, less leverage means that it's not going to be as explosive to the upside, but basically what you're looking at is a limitation of the downside risk, which I think ultimately is bullish. Now, finally, I want to talk about the MVRV Z-score. I haven't talked about this in a little while, but it's very important to understand. Right now, we're sitting at 1.8. Now, this Z-score takes into account the average Bitcoin. You go ahead and take a look at the how they calculate it, but it's basically the circulation market capitalization minus the realized market capitalization and then divided by the standard deviation. And this gives you an idea of Bitcoin's valuation. Now, normally Bitcoin in the bull market tops tend to go up to about 7 or so, and we're only sitting at about a 1.84. Okay, so we're way below where it would normally top out in a bull market top. And again, mostly it goes up to 6, 7, 8. We are actually below a 2, so Bitcoin is still very undervalued according to the Z-score. Now, this changes. I'll definitely let you guys know. I'll make a video about it, and we'll go ahead and we'll talk about what that means for the price. But for now, Bitcoin is still below that historical top. So be aware that this could potentially lead to more gains in the future. So Bitcoin right now, I think setting up nicely. It's consolidating. I think it's definitely going to be making a push for all-time highs, new all-time highs within the next couple of weeks, and we could get a very nice Santa Claus rally. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you think it's possible we can get that Santa Claus rally by the end of the year, if you think that the October Seasonality has been broken, and now we're kind of in free fall, or if you expect Bitcoin to actually go below 100, leave a comment below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.